We're about to show you some deleted scenes from the show Lost. These scenes were placed in the original show. None of what is shown in these clips are real. These scenes highlight the tension between the characters Sawyer and Sayid. Sawyer is prejudiced against Sayid, which basically means he has an unjustifiable opinion of him based on the social groups which he belongs to. Let's cut to the scenes now. Happy watching!
What was that back there? This is no time to be fighting. There are people injured on this island and we're stranded over here.
Hey, the facts are all there! He had his hands under his blanket and that black kid found handcuffs. I've just put two and two together.
But you didn't see the handcuffs on him. You can't just accuse people of something like that, Sawyer. We can't afford to panic right now. Whatever you think you're doing, you're not helping.
Listen, Doc, I'm trying to help. We got food, we got water. Now all we gotta do is try to be safe. I'm helping by getting rid of all the threats on this island. And I think tech support over there is one of them.
You literally just met him.
Yeah, but I sure know what he is.
What, Sawyer? What is he?
Oh, come on, I don't need to say it out loud. You know what I mean.
I know, I don't know what you mean. Just spit it out already.
He's brown. He's one of the Muslims. He's dangerous.
You have no proof that he's dangerous.
Funny gosh darn proof? Listen, Doc, let me tell you something. Those people are evil. They treat their women like trash. They're violent, they have bombs, and they have no problems with hurting others with them. Don't you remember what's been happening in this past decade? The Gulf War, 9/11, and now that Iraq War. Those people invade other countries because they want more. They're not happy with what they have, so they destroy other places to keep power. The men of our great country have to fly to clean up their messes and make things right. Those Muslims are warlike, monsters. I don't care who this guy is or why he was on that plane. He was born a terrorist. No amount of being friendly or acting all nice is going to take that out of him.
Get it. You're afraid of Saeed.
What? I'm not afraid of that. No!
You're like millions of other Americans who forget that Muslims are people. Saeed has been nothing but helpful to everyone so far. You saw how he organized everyone to clean up after the crash.
You're not a guilt.
Damn it, Sawyer. He didn't blow up the plane. The plane broke apart during the turbulence, and you know that. You can't judge Saeed based on his looks, what he's been genetically born with. Judge him on what type of person he is, because that's what he is. Just like me, just like you.
Well, what if I don't believe you, Doc? Even though you're the all-knowing leader, I guess.
Don't call me Doc. My name is Jack, and you know that.
You're the Doc! That's all I see of you, so that's all I'm gonna call you.
Hey man, are you okay?
I'm fine. I just need some time to calm down.
I can't believe that Regnet accused you of something like that.
I don't blame him. We're all kind of stressed out. No help has arrived yet.
He's stressed, but he shouldn't have assumed that you were...
A terrorist.
Yeah, that. He shouldn't have assumed that just because he found those handcuffs.
It's fine. I'm used to it. And he has reason for thinking that way. It was kind of suspicious for me to keep my hands under the blanket on the plane.
Then...
I'm a nail biter. Nasty habit. Kind of grosses people out, so I don't want to bother them.
Ah, gotcha.
Anyways, the people of my country have done some terrible things before. And because of that, there will always be people like Sawyer who want to pick a fight.
Well, yeah. But Americans have done some awful things too. I mean, we basically invented diabetes, right? But it hasn't diabetes us yet.
I suppose so.
Hey, what you working on?
Just trying to fix this transceiver. I think it's been damaged a lot from the crash, but it's not beyond repair. I was able to turn it on, but I couldn't hear anything, so I fixed the audio gain control, and then I reconnected the antenna with a bit of tape, so now signals can be transduced. Some of the wires on the inside here were also shorted, so I took a bit of metal from the plane. It's crude, but the alloy is mostly copper, I think, so it'll conduct.
Yeah, totally. So does that mean we're being saved?
Not necessarily. Even after I finish fixing the transceiver, I still have to get to high ground to receive any signals. This thing definitely does not have enough juice to get a microwave.
Say, you seem to know a lot about electronics. Now, how do you know all of this?
I was a military communications officer in the Gulf War.
Oh, cool. I wanted to go. I tried enlisting in the army, but that didn't work out. One of my friends was in the war as well. He was in the 104th Airborne. Were you in the Air Force Army?
I was part of the Republican Guard.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry.
You weren't expecting that, were you? I'm not that far from the man Sawyer thinks I am.
Well, you haven't hurt me. No, I said he's wrong.
I've hurt others. His opinion of me is that of a monster. I saw that reflected in his eyes during our fight. Every so often someone looks at me with that same look. And every time I wonder, how wrong are they about me? Maybe I am exactly what people think I am.
No, you can't just think like that. And even if you are a monster, it's nothing permanent. People can change. Sawyer just doesn't get that.
I want to believe that's true.
It is. I know you have been through a lot lately, but don't be so hard on yourself, man.
Thank you,
Slowly.
Saeed.
Was the scene. In the final take for the episode was cut because of the lack of time. However, the actors in these scenes had a lot to say about them, mainly the interesting ways that they connect to social science.
Yes, Sawyer, the playboy and lone wolf. He's a complex character, so we're going to break down some basics. Line analysis number 1. We got food, we got water, so now we gotta try to be safe. This line shows how Sawyer's behavior follows Maslow's pyramid of needs. Maslow's pyramid of needs describes how a person must fulfill needs of different categories before reaching self-actualization. In this case, Sawyer has already achieved the first level, physiological needs, due to the crash providing food and water for him to survive. Sawyer then moves on to his psychological needs of safety. He feels unsafe with Saeed in the group due to his prejudice against him. Sawyer struggles to fulfill the psychological need because the others don't want him to get rid of Saeed. Because of this, Sawyer won't reach self-actualization, the top of Maslow's pyramid. Self-actualization requires a lack of prejudice and an acceptance of facts. Since Sawyer is heavily prejudiced against Saeed and refuses to see that he is a person, he cannot reach his full potential. This could definitely have future repercussions for Sawyer as a character. Line analysis number 2. Those people invade other countries because they want more. They're not happy with what they have, so they destroy other places to keep power. The men of our great country have to fly in to clean up their messes and make things right. This line shows that Sawyer believes Muslims like Saeed are born evil. This concept of people being born evil ties into the idea of nature versus nurture. Sawyer believes that because Saeed was born into a Muslim family, his traits and beliefs are set in stone, no matter how much his environment may influence him. Sawyer makes vague references to past conflicts between the US and the Middle East in his small speech. In the Gulf War specifically, Iraq invaded Kuwait to gain more economic power. This historical detail supports Karl Marx's conflict theory, in which he describes how people from economically distant groups are naturally drawn to conflict. Sawyer's belief of how Saeed's country would do anything to benefit itself is similar to Thomas Hobbes' philosophy, where he thinks people are born selfish and will do anything to benefit themselves. Line analysis number 3. You're the doc. That's all I see of you, so that's all I'm going to call you. From this line, we can see that Sawyer tends to stereotype people and fit them into roles, such as Jack being the doctor. This is related to the sociological perspective of symbolic interaction, specifically the realization made by George Herbert Mead, that interpretations are based on connotations associated with individuals and groups. Sawyer interprets the actions of others on a surface level. He derives their motivations from their appearances. Jack has been helping injured people, so he's the doc. Saeed is Middle Eastern, so he's a terrorist. That is Sawyer's social reality. It's what he sees, but not at all what these people are. His interpretations of the people around him prevent him from making connections with them, and preserves his lone wolf status.
Line analysis number 1. You can't judge Saeed on his looks, what he's been genetically born with. Judge him on what kind of person he is, because he is a person, just like me, just like you. In this line, Jack makes reference to the nature versus nurture theory, and specifically shows support for nurture. He believes that a person's personality and self are not limited by what they were born into. Rather, he believes that people can differ. Jack thinks that Saeed is a good person, or at least, has the potential to become one. On the other hand, Sawyer has a static image of Saeed, and refuses to believe that he is more than what he seems.
In this section, Saeed references the idea of Karl Marx's conflict theory. People in my country have done some terrible things before, and because of that there will always be people like Sawyer who want to pick a fight, which states that people of different groups will always conflict with one another in a struggle for power. Sawyer and Saeed both come from different ethnic groups that have had previous conflicts. When Saeed tries to portray himself as a helpful leader, Sawyer picks a fight with him to reassert his power. As a white person, he already has a certain amount of privilege. Sawyer keeps the status quo by picking on the person of color. He sees Saeed as a scapegoat, someone he can easily label as the guy with handcuffs because of what he looks like. C.H. Cooley believed that people's self-concepts were based on what they believed others saw of them. This phenomenon is called the looking-glass self. Here, Saeed entertains that idea. I've hurt others. His opinion of me is that of a monster. I saw that reflected in his eyes during our fight. Every so often, someone looks at me with that same look. And every time I wonder, how wrong are they about me? Maybe I am exactly what people think I am. He wonders if what he's had to do during the war, which we, as the audience, imagine to be awful, makes him a monster. This is because of people like Sawyer who view him as such. However, Hurley refutes him and ties in the idea of nature versus nurture. Even if Saeed thinks he's a monster now, he has the ability to change. His self is not set in stone. He has the ability to look at himself in a different way, as a survivor of a horrible conflict.
As a sort of overarching question to conclude this in-depth interview, we asked the actors, why do you personally think prejudice exists?
I believe prejudice arises from a lack of understanding between groups. Humans are naturally afraid of the unknown, so when we see someone different, we fear them. We naturally categorize them as bad. This relates back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as safety or security is a need that must be achieved early on the pyramid. Without it, it's implied we struggle with the next tier, which consists of relationships. This is also true in society, where people generally have friends from the same country or from the same ethnic background, because they're familiar in some way. We humans stick to what we know.
I think prejudice exists only because we all live in different places, right? I mean, people have different cultural norms. A decision that's normal for some people might look suspicious or even weird to others, and that creates a divide. In history, this has happened before. Jewish people were seen to have deviant traits in a Christian-dominant society, which has led to their repeated discrimination over centuries. When we highlight a group as different, we oppress them and we force them into a minority. This relates to Karl Marx's conflict theory, which is differences in beliefs lead to an unbalance of power, which ultimately leads to conflict between these groups.
Prejudice is a thing that could be totally resolved if people just communicated. In the show, that's what prevents the Islanders from working together at the start. I believe that the lack of communication can be caused by the environment and how they're going to understand others. For example, stereotyping other races due to one specific person acting differently from each other, or a trend of actions that are coincidental. This is backed up specifically by the nurture part of nature versus nurture debate. Human perspective and thinking are influenced by the environment around them.
Prejudice is the result of us not willing to change our perceptions of others. The minute society tells us something about a group, in our head that becomes its label. Once we have a belief about someone, we try to make everything they do connect to that label. If a delinquent student skips class, we assume it's because they're badly behaved and don't consider other reasons such as doctor's appointments. It sort of relates to W.I. Thomas's definition of the situation. If we think something is real, it becomes real to us. When we have these labels, they're hard to get rid of. Nobody likes cognitive dissonance, but if we do, it'll become easier for us to see everyone as people.